Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the second on the series of the valuation education presentations. If we can give it just a minute so that allowed for everybody to be settled and everybody else to come in. And thanks to the Academy of Construction and Real Estate for organizing these webinars. These are part of the what we call valuation education webinar series. And these series takes place once every month. We're going to have a single series. And the valuation education webinar series happens, it's about an hour to an hour and a half. We allow for an hour, where we invite valuation practitioners in the industry to come in and present on a particular topic, and we have a conversation for an hour with those particular industries. Last month, in February, we had our colleague who presented on valuation, leasing, and analysis of leasing in valuation. Today, I've got two colleagues that have joined me, and let me just move this thing out of the way, because this is blocking my view. I've got colleagues that have joined us, and they're going to be talking about valuation technologies and how these valuation technologies are shaping the valuation practice. And before we start, I'm also going to allow for a short showcase or a presentation that the colleagues at Academy of Construction and Real Estate, ACA, have asked me to put down so that we are able to understand, because it's part of this particular topic, a short presentation on PropTech, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. So the valuation education series, as I've mentioned, it's our contribution as practitioners and our contribution as I'm a director for the Academy of Construction and Real Estate to the industry, to say that we need to create a pipeline where we connect and we learn, and we're able to allow valuers to professionally grow. As a result, this particular series will take place on a regular basis. Just look out for updates. And even at the end of today's session, I will share what the next session will be and the details that we're expecting. If you have to talk about technology or valuation technology or value tech, as some people might call it, is that this thing has been a journey that has started in the late 90s, early 2000s, with the automation processes, where valuers, and particularly those valuers that are in the technology space, begin to appreciate the fact that there's an introduction of technology that we have to deal with within this particular space. As a result, what has happened is that although today we are sitting at AI, and we're going to have a discussion around how does that have an impact in terms of moving forward with regard to the industry. I mean, if you look at the early 2000s, the late 90s and the early 2000s, that is where the majority of the discussions and the conversations were around automation. And that's where the advent of AVMs came in, automated valuations. And it was a big controversy around valuers. I remember somewhere around 2005, if not later, at another conference in 2008, when I joined the bank or the financial sector. Then later, in 2015, I was at a conference with the South African Council of Property Valuers Profession in one of the cities in South Africa, in Durban, where it was novel to talk about AVMs and automation, and majority of valuers were very reluctant to be able to engage in those particular conversations, and it was very difficult to be able to deal with them in those cases. From there, we grew. After acceptance of AVMs, or what they call computer-generated valuations, the industry grew to begin to accommodate, and I think the mid-2000s, we saw the rise of analytics, where valuers begin to move beyond just the acceptance of a production line, if I may call it, of AVMs, and begin to introduce the analysis, and you started having quite sophisticated work and the emergence of a number of entities that are beginning within the financial sector and within the valuation in general, particularly in the municipal, where the CAMA, computerized municipal valuations were introduced, or mass appraisals, computerized mass appraisals were introduced, and we begin to accept that you can do clever stuff with technology. And that's when we begin. Many organizations were born around about those days, beyond 2010 and beyond. As today, one of the organizations that are very big here in South Africa, it's Lightstone. And I know that Maje is here, he has joined us. They've got their own technology, Real Valuer. And then there's another technology that is also in the space that is contributing, which is Go Smart Value, which is another that is being introduced. And there's quite a number of these things that have come up post the automated valuation, where you're starting to do clever stuff, producing analytics, producing market reports. Today, as we speak, the late 2000s, we're now seeing the advent of AI and the advent of technologies such as BIM as a result, because valuers are supposed to do building inspection and so building analysis, that we look at the building information management systems to be able to say, how do those influence our industry, including to look at beyond report writing, and to say, how does AI begin to take over the manual work or the administration work within, and we expect that to grow, whether it's drones or it's building scans or it's GIS and all of those technologies. When we look at them, to say, how do those technologies look at and we engage with them. And I'm hoping that as part of the conversation today, we're going to look at those things and says, how do those technologies change not only the work that the valuer does, but also begin to change the way that the industry looks and the way that the industry performs? And how do we look forward to say, how do we begin to embrace these things and how do they interface within our environment? And if you might allow me, and then my colleagues here, they will introduce themselves. And then when you answer to this invite, you would have had the introduction in terms of the write-up. And I'm not going to butcher any of their prestige CVs. These are colleagues that I've known for a while, and both of them, coincidentally, I've met them at the same event, but at different environments. So the first time I got an encounter with Maje, it's about 4 or 5 years ago, at a AFRES conference, where we were sharing in a panel, and then I met him again a few years later at another conference, which is Africa Property Investment Conference, ZimReal in Zimbabwe. And then ever since then, the first meet that we've had, we're being very close and we've been interacted quite a number of times. My next colleague that I want to introduce is Olawale Adeyemi from Nigeria. And this colleague as well, I've met him through conferences. I met him at AFRES, and we've interacted through that. And this is how we build relationships. Hence, you'd see that when the Academy of Construction and Real Estate, ACA, when they communicate, they've got a tagline that says connect, learn, and grow. So I've grown and I'm continuing to grow from these connections, and I'm continuing to learn from these connections. And I'm hoping with today's presentations or today's discussion, you will be able to also learn. This presentation or this interaction is planned for an hour. We'll allow for a Q&A. That's why we've got the half an hour. If we don't have any questions, if it's clear as mud, then we would close. We don't want to keep you longer than we should. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to this session of the Valuation Education Series. Before we begin, and the way that it goes with the education series, each of the speakers is given enough time to be able to take us through their thoughts. And then in this particular case, they'll take us through their thoughts, and then they'll also take us through how they apply, and they'll share whatever is relevant within their space of valuation. And if they want to share a presentation, we do allow that to be able to showcase what is there. But this is an interactive session that we're going to have. And before we begin, I will share with, and I must just check that Inyo is here, or In is here. So we at, and I'm saying we because I'm a director at the Academy of Construction Real Estate, we have also gone through our own technology journey that for those who are not yet part of a community, so there is, and I'll tell you a little bit at the end about the Africa Valuation Conference. And through the Africa Valuation Conference, there's a community of valuers and valuation practitioners or valuation surveyors that interact on a regular basis, either through Twitter, and they follow Africa Valuations Conference. As part of that, we have built a network of valuers who interact with each other. And quite recently, I'm saying this year, as we move into us, we have built a relationship with PropTech Bars. It's a property technology media entity, which has created a technology specifically dedicated to African valuers. And if you go and join, and Ini will take us through that. If you go and join, you'll see that there's different chapters that are also created for the West, the East, and all of that are under the umbrella of the African Valuation Conference. Ini, if you can come through for the next 5 minutes, and then I'll go to my panel. Welcome, everybody. Ini, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mashilo. Hello, everyone. My name is Ini. I'm the Global Lead for Growth and Partnerships at PropTech Buzz, and it's truly an honor and a great privilege to be partners with the Academy of Construction and Real Estate, ACAR, and also this also extends to the conference that's happening next week, the Africa Valuation Conference. So now in the spirit of today's conversation, which is valuation technologies, we have a dedicated community space to keep this conversation going because we know when there are webinars like this, usually there's a time limit, and then there's conversations that eventually spill over. So we have a community portal for this. I'm going to be sharing my screen in a second and just show you how you can join and how you can benefit from this. So please, I think you can see my screen right now. If you can, you would see that this webinar right now is being live streamed directly from the community. So you can join the community and be part of the conversation that's going on directly from the community page. You can see me right now. That's what's showing right now on the community page. And you can see from this community page, you can see all the posts that are there. But just let me show you how you can get to this community page from the homepage. So this is the PropTech Buzz homepage. And if you want to go to the Africa Valuation Conference community, all you need to do is click or just hover on communities here, and you can see Africa Valuation prominently placed here. So once you click on this, it takes you to the Africa Valuation Conference community. Like Mashilo said just before he passed it on to me, there's several sub-channels in the community. So there's one for West Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa, and then for some other subtopics around technology like sustainability, technology and innovation and all that. So this is the main homepage for the community. But in case you want to see other events that are coming up very soon, you can click on calendar here. And what that opens, it opens the calendar page, and you can see, so you can see right now the valuation technologies is happening at the moment, but you can also see some other webinars or events that are coming very soon. These ones are actually attached to the conference, but once they upload new events, you can see them here. You can also see past events by clicking on past events here. You can see all the other events that have happened before. And what's interesting about this community page is conversations can continue. They don't have to end once the webinar ends. So there's a chat stream here on the right where you can ask questions, you can get feedback. Maybe there's something that wasn't addressed during the course of the webinar. You can come here and you can tag people. I can tag, I'm not going to do that right now, but I can just search for him and then tag him and make a post right there. So you would also have a section called courses here. Once the conference is over, so we're going to partner with ACAR as well. So if you want to learn more about valuation, I believe that they will send more information over to you. But you would also find that in the courses section right here. Because we're strategic partners for the conference, people can also buy tickets. So you can see that right here. It's something that people can also do from the community page. So it's a community portal with everything that you need to sustain conversations. Conversations don't have to end here. And even if you attended the conference, it doesn't have to end at the conference itself. You can continue those conversations here. And this posts, you can see that. I wanted to share very quickly because when you join the community, I would encourage you to introduce yourselves. So this is an example of a good introduction post. I'm sure that you can see this. So just say your name and then just talk about what you're there to do, and then people can also respond. You can tag the next person. It's very interesting thing we've done just to keep engagement going, making sure that you get the best out of the community page. So that's it for me for now. I'll pass the mic back to our amazing governor, Mashilo. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ini. And as I may say, for those that want to join the community, the link is provided in the chat. At any given time, you are able to join. And thanks, Ini, for the presentation.
Thank you, Maje.
I'm going to go straight, while Ini is stop sharing, I'm going to go straight to my panel. And I'm going to start with Mr. Adeyemi to be able to share his thoughts or any presentation that he's got around, and he will introduce himself and his profile around the valuation technology and how is valuation technologies there. And if there are practical examples that he's able to share in terms of the ones that are used in his environment, because he's a practicing valuer. That's why the Valuation Education Series, we take practitioners who are in the field, he's a practicing and is a professional registered valuer, and he's running his own entity. As a result, he can share as much as possible about, and then how is that shaping the environment in which he's operating and the environment in which he's based. Mr. Adeyemi, if you can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Though when I was invited, one of the things that came to my head is why me? Because you are putting me on the spot on a topic I'm very passionate about. For those who know me, they know how passionate I can be about, improved valuation. In Nigeria, where I come from, the current technological adoption rates can still be considered low. That's because we still largely do things the old way. However, it's so easy to speak to, the current trends, the big data, AVMs, and machine learning, and all that you have spoken about, But I would like to start from, the small things, because valuation, as it were, is, I actually asked to speak, not to speak first, because, truth is, when we speak to technology for valuation, is just catching up here in Nigeria. I'd like to share my slide and just say a few words, and then I would probably speak to those things after.
Sure, go ahead. You can share your screen.
All right, I would be sharing my screen in a few minutes. Give me a second. I don't know why I'm struggling to share my screen. I'll just keep talking while, and as soon as I can share my screen, I will do so. So for me, I will, it's easy to talk about the big things, but let's start from the basics. Valuation, as I like to talk about it, is such that we need to provide our clients with reliable information that they can trust and that can enable them make decisions. These days, in the past, clients gave you adequate time to push in your report. But these days, clients just want sorry, I'm trying to share my screen, so you may not, I'm trying very much to share it, and it's just within me.
Yeah, can I do this with you?
Yeah, please do it with me. If you can help me share my screen, I would like to just, have a few slides.
Yeah, I've asked the team. Here. Yeah, I've asked the team in the background that they assist you with to share your screen. So if you don't mind, then I'll ask Maje go first, and then we'll bring you back once we have sorted out that in the background. Is that okay?
That's okay. That's okay.
All right. Maje, if you may proceed where we stopped. Like I said, I've known Maje as is a veteran. He's also run his entity, Apex Properties. They specialize in valuations, and they've also got their own technology. It's called Real Valua. And if he can be able to come in while we are waiting to sort out the gremlins on the presentation. Maje, your thoughts? You're muted, Maje.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mashilo and the participants. I think, one of the things that is very interesting, especially when it comes to, valuation or the property sector, we find that we lag behind in technology. I think right now, if you look at where technology is, we are already talking of AI, but we are still, a bit behind. And I operate in a market where technology is not fully adopted. So we have been trying to solve a lot of problems using technology. And we find that it is a very good tool to use. If you are dealing with with a lot of properties. And earlier on, Mashilo, you talked of AVMs. We found that in our market, AVM doesn't really work very well because a lot of our properties don't have similar characteristics, unlike, let's say, maybe in South Africa where, developers build, similar type properties. So it becomes easy to, compare like with like using an automated model. So you'll find that here we still value the traditional way, where you have to go and inspect a property, then work out, a value. And one of the challenges in our market has been, reliability of comparable information. And that is, has been the cry for the longest of time. And now with the platform that we have, we've tried to address that. And then also we have tried to address, rating valuations, which, has been one of the projects that we did recently. And we found that this technology worked very well in that environment because it really helped us to be able to standardize things, to have, the right cost application, and also to reduce errors. Because if you use Excel and you are valuing maybe 40,000 properties, the number of errors are quite, it's a lot. And for you to pick those errors can be tricky. And we found that, our valuation software has been very helpful in that regard. So I don't know when Mashilo expects me to maybe showcase, what we've been doing, just to show our participants today that, with the right software, especially if it's homegrown, it helps because we've developed something that solves our problem. It's not something that has been customized maybe from Canada or Australia or somewhere like that. Because what we've seen that a lot of softwares which are customized, they really don't work for the African market. I mean, we've got unique problems, we've got unique challenges. So, I mean, the challenges that we have here may be similar to what is in Zimbabwe or even Nigeria, you know. So it's helpful that we are solving our problem. And, you know, with technology, we feel that, you know, in the next few years, we'll be able to do these things efficiently and with accuracy. And also it will bring about trust, you know, especially when you look at investors. I mean, we're always trying to bring in, you know, foreign investors, but they like credible data. They like something which is traceable. But with the current models of traditional valuation, nothing is traceable. Nothing is, I mean, if I have got information in my computer, that is my information. But with a platform, that information can be, you know, built and developed and be analyzed further, you know, for many, many years to come. So
and you can go ahead. Sorry,
okay.
Maje, you can go ahead and showcase at any time during your presentation. It's yeah.
Okay, let me try and see.
You've got about 5 to 10 minutes of time that is still left in your presentation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe you guys can see, you can see my screen now. You'll tell me if you can.
Yeah, we can see your screen. You can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so basically this is the valuation platform. It has got 2 modules for residential and you know, commercial properties. So I will go there and maybe just check one property there. Then you will see that this is a residential property, and the method which the client wanted us to use was the, you know, depreciated replacement cost method. So you'll find that here we have got where we fill in data related to the property. And then one of the things that has been very, very critical in our platform is a QS calculator. And the reason why we had to develop that was that a lot of times valuers don't have the right, you know, what you costing per square meter. Some will go and get, you know, information from the internet, you know, which is provided by maybe international QS firms. But we develop ours, which is in line with, you know, our environment. And this, you know, even when you use this software in Nigeria, you can apply the QS rates in Nigeria, which are then corresponds to the Nigerian market, or, you know, whichever market. So this is basically the calculator, and then it has got categories of, you know, properties, you know, which we are dealing with. I mean, here you'll find that you see this Shah type houses. These are like Mikuku type properties, which are, you know, makeshift type properties. So we have got calculators for all types of properties, and then also, you know, the years of construction. Then you end up coming up with a, you know, a value or a number, and, you know, obsolescence of that property. So this helps reducing, you know, a valuer just having to throw in percentages, you know, and then you'll find that if you have got a lot of properties that you're dealing with, then you know, you end up not getting the right output. Then if we were to use the open market value, you know, your standard market, so there you are able to pull out, you know, comparables by location, by the neighborhood, you know, where the property, you know, is, and then you are able to then select the right, the right rates, according to the neighborhood. So you're able to see, oh no, these locations are there. So you are able to pull the right, and then also as a valuer, you are able to make your adjustments, looking at the type of comparables that you are dealing with. So in this situation, we were not expected to, do valuation based on market value. But if we were, this is where it would have been done, and then eventually you have your, your value this side, So I will go back to showcase the commercial aspects of things, and this is how, we traditionally do valuation. So it's not I mean, the system is not valuing, at the end of the day, is the valuer who will put his his inputs, and then tell us that like, I mean, as you can see here, there's a commercial one, we've got income capitalization method. You are able to input figures, and then we've got the DCF. You can work out your DCF. You can, work out your insurance, and even with the insurance, you still have got your, your rates according to, what the QS had, inputted, and then eventually you come up with the, with a value, which shows what, this is the figure. So with this, it helps us to reduce, errors, and we are able to do, a lot of valuations without necessarily having to, rely on Excel, and we are able to check quality, quality control and all that. Yeah. I think with that, maybe I would say, I don't know if Mashilo, you'll be asking me questions, or people will be asking questions. So I don't.
Yeah. At the end of all the presentations, as I said, this thing is normally set up for about an hour, where we allow about 15 to 20 minutes for each presenter to present their story, and then we do a Q&A at the end. I think Mr. Adeyemi is sorted, Honorable Adeyemi, and then if I may allow him to come in and present. And then once he has presented, we'll go. I have a few questions that I'm going to ask with regard to your presentation, and I'll start off, and then after this particular presentation, Honorable Adeyemi, if you can go ahead.
Thank you very much for, that was a wonderful presentation by Dr. Maje. Interestingly, we've been trying to do this in our country, trying to have that software we can use, but we're not there yet. Basically, that's why I said when I started initially that I would speak to the basics and then where we should be going, or where we are going, because this is a topic that is very, very dear to my heart, because valuation is about the only thing that the estate surveyor and valuer in Nigeria does. Other aspects of practice, we share them. So I have about 11 slides that I would speak to.
So go ahead.
Yeah, so I would start. My slide is being shared for me. Okay, yeah, by your team. So I think it didn't enable editing. So let me see if I can share mine from here. I think I can share it now. I'm able to sort out the initial details. Okay. It didn't enable editing. So let me see if I can share from my end. Okay, yes, I can share now. All right. So I go to my slide. Okay, so the topic where he gave us is valuation technologies, reshaping the valuation practices. So I'll speak to our current practices and how we are reshaping them, really. So valuation, and I would focus more on the processes. Doctor, they showed us practically the process of running their current software. We don't have a software at the moment that automates our valuation. Is that said? Technology, like I wrote here, our focus is just on how it is transforming our processes and how it delivers more effective valuations to meet the needs of our valuation users. In Nigeria, technological adoption is still at a nascent stage. So I will speak to foundational aspects before I come to speak to, the things we're hoping to do. So technology actually helps us to achieve 4 things, which is speed, efficiency, reliability, and cost effectiveness. These days, like I said earlier, a lot of clients want you to deliver a valuation in the moment they give you the brief. And in our markets, especially after COVID, we started to experience some level of rapid increase in prices, such that your valuation, the moment you turn in your valuation, it almost becomes, obsolete. Because you check the market the next day, it has moved. And that was because after COVID, some markets began to pick up and all of that. And then by 2023, we had a change of government and some policy changes happened. Very drastic policy changes that truly affected the market. Prices doubled in many places. Prices became unstable. Some people began to benchmark against the dollar and all of that. And truly, we had no choice but to start to think about embracing technology. So these days, what do our clients want? Our clients want us to, not only tell them our opinion of value, which is based on, rigorous inspections, calculations, and, report writing. They want us to provide insights into how the asset has performed and then market forecast. They want us to offer trend analysis and predict the future performance of the assets. They even also want sometimes comparative analysis with other assets. They also want us these days to provide analytics on this. So I move to the next slide. What are we doing? The key task in a typical valuation anywhere, including in Nigeria, is that we get to inspect, we survey, we tag, we describe the assets. We then go to gather our data and analyze it. And then we compute our figures and submit our reports. We prepare the interim and the final report. Now, let me speak to technology. Before I go to that, the Nigerian market is such that we don't have a centralized database. And it is such that you want to do evaluation today, you need to rely on 2 things. One, technology will offer you asking prices, because basically what our technology still covers in the markets marketing, it's basically used for marketing. You have a number of platforms in Nigeria that help to market. So we're able to extract data from there, but most of the time they're asking prices, for our comparables. And then we have to adjust based on, the knowledge of the valuer. So half of the time we're relying on colleagues to provide us with data. Basically, for those 4, stages, initially, they were done manually. I was surprised last year that I was, with I was to do evaluation with a colleague. And after gathering all our data, we got into the, the office And he wanted, and he brought out his pen, paper, and calculator. And I told him the spreadsheet will do this for you. So basically, for our own technology, we're still largely at the level of, using the spreadsheets for computation. Now, until very recently too, when I say very recent, last few years, most valuations were done by measuring. Either you're using any type of tape, whether it is the wheel, the laser, and all of that. But basically, drone technology is catching up gradually. Drone technology is catching up gradually. GIS is catching up gradually in our markets. You find out that you go to site now, you can almost get all the information you need because the GIS tools and the GPS, tools. In fact, for banks, mostly who give, who are major users of our valuation reports, you find out that the banks basically are focused on, the use of GIS tools, how you present, your data, how you present your pictures and all of that. Still where, our market is. Now, for the technologies that shape valuation in Nigeria, I'm speaking as a Nigerian, then I would go, broader because I happen to have some small experience, with what the RICS is doing and what is happening in the UK because I had a part of my education studying, in there. So basically, we are beginning to use drone technology for site inspection. In fact, initially, it started with the basics. The basic, the basic ones, until, some kind of drones began to enter the market that are currently being used for, not only for, aerial photography and high resolution videos and imagery. Now you are beginning to have, those ones that help you to capture coordinates that can help, produce survey plan within minutes. Because one of the challenges we have, though it's largely sorted now, is that we rely on our physical measurements, which sometimes or many times will be totally outside what the survey plan tells you. Sometimes some of the clients have sold a portion of their property and they still offer to you the survey plan for the whole. So basically, we are, having to use our tapes and all of that over the years. We now get to use, unmanned UAVs, drones that help us to, drive, inspections. You go into most of the time when you see valuation report by valuers in Nigeria, under, our assumptions, you see very well that they would mention that they only speak to the parts that have been visually inspected. These days, drones are helping us to be able to inspect parts of the building that normally we would not have been able to inspect. So we also, I've mentioned the GPS, GIS that, we get to use for spatial analysis. You take coordinates on site. So you send, your colleague goes to the office, to site, and it takes coordinates. By the time it sends it to you, you are able to visualize from your computer, basically, those things that, how the site looks like. With Google, with Google, you can see, use the street view and all of that. And those things are, beginning to help our valuation, at least take us away from the, do I call it the Stone Age, where we were coming from, generally as a group. Yes, there are more advanced, softwares in Nigeria, like the Argus software being used by quite a number, or by a number of people, but it's not like that's, it's that widespread, to be honest. Just yesterday, a senior colleague that's, we share ideas, called me, was doing a valuation of an asset that was built sometime in around 40 years, about 40 years ago, an office complex, and he was trying to determine the yield. Truth is, that data is, we still have to, manually collect the data and extrapolate it. Also, the use of spreadsheets, as, as basic as it may sound, is just becoming, widespread. Initially, like I said, you will find colleagues just take their paper, biro, and calculator, the Paris table, and try to, make meaning. And, for more advanced valuations, like the discounted cash flow, we still largely, use our spreadsheets. And then for those who have access to, Argo software, they still get to use it. So basically, I want to speak a little about AVMs because that's where we are. I've spoken so much about where we are and where we should be going to. And that's because a few weeks ago, I took a class in AI, and then what occupied my mind throughout the class as as we were taught the various, AI tools that can be used, that can be used across. It wasn't specifically, tailored to real estate. It was a general AI class. Was, as it took us through a lot of those technologies, like as it took us through a lot of those technologies like ChatGPT. So we're teaching us prompt engineering, as it was teaching, as we were being taught, how different tools in a lot of those, those tools as we were being taught, and I was writing down because, like I said, I just took the class. So I'll speak to them briefly. As as we were, utilize, being taught, what was coming to my mind is how can we adapt this to valuation market? And I have been studying a little, and I realized that the RICS has been doing a lot in that space. Basically, you find out that the problems are the same. They're talking about how time consuming, how you have to pour through, mountain loads of data, historical market data to be able to arrive at the value. AI is helping solve that, gradually. I think this is not very clear. When I make available my slides, for sharing, I will try to. The RICS identified 4 different types, they identified 4 different types of AVMs. And AVM, automated valuation models. And they said there are some of them that are, total. You feed in data, it gives you output. There's some of them that allow for the valuer to interact, with them. I've also been able to identify, a number of softwares that are currently being used out of that. After this, class, after this, webinar, we will in Nigeria be able to sit down and ask ourselves, especially, with what Dr. Maje has said about having, homegrown technology. I think it's time for us to start looking at that. Why are we unable to, do those things in the interim? I'm speaking to the challenges that we currently face, our reality, where we are versus where we should be. We realize that for a lot of practicing surveyors, adopting technology has been very slow. Also, we suffer from serious data scarcity. You want to, value an asset, you probably will be having access to information, your comparables are not comparables in the real sense. You need to clean them up. You need to clean them up because what you would have basically are asking prices that you need to adjust. Also, largely, we still rely on, the old valuation methods. though the discounted cash flow for asset generating, for income generating assets is fast kicking in. A number of firms are beginning to, speak to them. And then our green book, which was issued a few years ago and largely mirrored, is still, centered around the old methods, the traditional methods of valuation. And if you look at it, as we move towards AI valuations, digitization, and automation, there will be a need for us to, look at it from a regulatory perspective. I had a chat a few days ago. That's before I knew I was going to be speaking about this with one of our, seniors in one of our regulators, and a law, like he informed me, some things are being done in first is we're working towards creating a central data bank. Because even when we choose to use AI will rely on available data. It is data that is available that AI would give. After my AI class, and I was taught everything, Perplexity and all of those tools, I decided to use AI for the next valuation. And I discovered that all the data I got were historical, nothing recent. So we still need to, establish our own central data bank, develop and adopt our own homegrown valuation softwares. And then we can then talk about beginning to automate with AIs and AVMs, and then using blockchain for transparency. I think I will yield the floor and then speak later if given the opportunity, or answer questions.
No, that's fine. And thank you very much for the presentation. And for those that are online, we as it was alluded to, we've got a forum where this particular presentation and this particular session will be shared. So if you want to watch it again, you can always go back and watch it again. And then if you have any specific questions that you want to ask to Ola or to Maje, you're welcome. You can be able to contact them directly and then ask any additional question. But we have made an allowance for time in order for us to do Q&A. And then I'll start with the Q&A. And look, my first question would go to both of you. And I'll start with you, Mr. Adeyemi, to say, it looks as if you are both saying that it doesn't matter what technology you use, whether you are using AI or you're still using AVMs, is that it is very important. The quality of the data and the recency of the data is very important. If you don't have quality data, it's garbage in, garbage out. And that's number one. Number two is that these technologies not only rely on just data that you have that you put in, but the type of market in which you use it then becomes important. So my question would be that one of the struggles, and then you hear that when you speak to the guys that are on the investment side, the asset management side, that one of the struggles that we find on the continent is the availability of data. And in those instances where data is available, is the quality of the data. How does the quality of the data impact on the adoption of technology within the continent in particular? Mr. Adeyemi, if you go first.
Okay, I was muted, so sorry. I didn't know I was muted. Yes, the truth is,
Mr. Adeyemi, we lost Ola. We lost your connection.
Whatever we speak to, whether it is the use of automation, available data, where there is no centralized database, where you can draw real-time data, credible data on
all right. The guys at the office, if you can assist us with Ola's line in the background. It seems to be catching up. Mr. Maje, if you can help us with that same thought that says, Ola says, the centralized and credible data becomes very important. So it's not only about availability of data or the amount of data that you have, or it's about whether it's credible and that data is easily accessible, publicly accessible, and is centralized. Your comments?
Do I still have the floor, or is Dr. Maje?
Yeah, sorry, Ola. Dr. Maje was already on the floor while you are still off, and I'll come back to you. Dr. Maje?
Yes, Mashilo. At least I've been today. You see, now I'm a doctor now.
You've got a graduation.
In Nigeria, there's so many doctors. So I think now you have to call me a doctor. So now, as you can see, my name has changed now to Dr. Maje. Ramashil, you find that one of the things that, especially when we talk of credible data, it is really a very important aspect. And in Botswana, and I think in a lot of African markets, you find that everything is documented in paper. And to analyze anything that is in paper is very challenging. I think now maybe with AI you could do that. But this is one of the challenges that we've been having. You find that whenever we come with a solution, people will be starting talking about, oh no, data, credibility. And we say, firstly, you have to build that data, clean it up. Over time, then it improves. But if you don't have a starting point, then 10 years down the line, you still not have data. You still not have credible data. You'll still not be able to compete, with the relevant, with other markets. You'll still not be able to draw in the investment that we desire, especially in the real estate space. Why? Because data is not available. But with like right now, with our platform right now, I can tell you now with confidence, rental rates of different malls, of locality centers. But before then, that was impossible. So now, even with the data, you are able to track that, okay, escalations going at this rate, this is what is going to happen, in 5 years. You are able to see whether the rates have been rebased or not. But right now, if anybody tells you anything, really, it's why they say your guess is as good as mine. Yes.
And Mr. Ola, if you can finish your thoughts around the very same thing, you're talking about the credibility and centralized data. And Maje talks about, yes, the credibility, but you have to do the homework. You have to pay the school fees with regard to making sure that data, you have to do the homework to be able to get. And you did make a point that you've realized after starting to use the technology that there's a bit of work that needs to be done, and you started picking up inequality, the level of the quality of the data as you're working through it. And then for those that wants to ask questions, you can put your question either in the chat or just put your name or raise your hand. We will open up for everybody from 3 o'clock so that we allow for 10-15 minutes for people to ask questions. Ola, if you can go ahead and finish your thoughts.
I thank you very much. I feel intimidated by what has happened in Botswana. In Nigeria, we like to regard ourselves as the giant of Africa. I think we need to go back.
You must go and poach them.
We need to go back to the drawing board. The truth is, for us, like I said before, data remains the problem. The data is available, but it's in the hands of a few people. And that means they took the pains to collect their own data. Now, the truth is, the market is for everybody. Now, what do I mean by that? If I was going to use, Botswana, Dr. Maje will not get all the jobs. in Botswana, he will get his own fair share of the job. So if you have colleagues who don't have, that data bank, and then even for those who claim to have the data bank, without, it's the data being open and being accessible to practitioners, how do we actually speak to the credibility of, the data? So data for us remains key. Valuation is about, the inputs. Sometime last year, I decided to go back to school. I took a course in, financial modeling regarding valuation. And they took us back to the first principles. And you know what I realized, when we're taking back to the first principles is we're taking back to classroom work where all the data was supplied, from rentals to yields to escalations, to any data that was required for us to build our spreadsheet, for us to, do our calculations, build our spreadsheets. At the end of the valuation, you realize very much that the answer is staring you in the face. If the answer is wide apart, somebody is wrong. Now, what do our valuation users do in Nigeria? They give the same job to 2 or more valuers, expecting that the valuers will come up with figures that are close or acceptance, or figures that are wide apart for, for rejection or for queries on the assignment. And then what do you realize? Two issues. One is the issue of the source of their data or the data employed. The second is the methodology. While methodology, can be agreed upon, sometimes data is the reason why the market, why the market is still largely considered as opaque. Where you want, information on the Nigerian market, you can't get at the click of a finger. So if it's not available, that's readily available to valuers. Is it readily available to you, to users? Is it very available to, government and, policymakers? So that's where we are. We need to start, creating that centralized data where we all can pick our data from, where we all can contribute to. And that's where AI, comes in, where, the data can be picked up, as it were. And like Dr. Maje said, we are work in progress. It's currently being worked on.
All right, let's see if there are any questions from the floor. Yes, the first question is from Bayon Simon, or Simone, if you want to pronounce it in French. I developed a valuation app for the DRC method of valuation, but I have not had the opportunity to showcase my product. This, I feel, is largely because valuers in my locality, especially the leaders of the near south, feel threatened by the fact that technology-enabled solutions could make valuation practice more open to non-professionals who lack technical knowledge and professional expertise to compete with valuers. What can somebody in my shoes do? The question that I'll ask beyond this question about what do regulators or voluntary associations that are in our environment do to embrace technology? In addition to that, which is the underlying question around this, is to say, how do us as practitioners, particularly those that are in the field, what is it that we need to do to be able, or you can give a practical example as to what did you do to overcome? Because I know in South Africa, in the mid-2000s, this was a big thing. And there are many articles you can read in the UK and everywhere else in the world where the fear, where valuers were afraid that technology coming in is going to take over their work. If it's not taking over their work, they believe that a valuation produced by machine is not a real valuation unless a person goes onto the field and do the work. How did you, and I'll start with Maje, how did you overcome that in terms of practitioners, in terms of making sure that industry begin to accept technology? Secondly, your view around how do regulators begin to incorporate because there are many jurisdictions, not only in Africa. If you look at how AVMs or the technology, in terms of our standards, even the IVSC standard does not cover the issue of technology appropriately. How do we address those two things? And Maje?
Thank you. Thank you, Mashilo. I think if I really tell you the honest truth, I haven't managed to overcome that. There is resistance and rejections at all corners. I mean, like we even here have a government, innovation fund. I mean, I think they've rejected my innovation a couple of times. They're saying that it's not innovation. they compare it to the likes of Zoopla and all those American real estate portals. So we really have a big challenge, and it's very unfortunate. That's why I was saying that, with valuation, we still really lag behind. I mean, whether, our banking institutions, whether, the valuers themselves. Like now, I mean, you find that the valuers will be jittery saying, that means, Maje will be, snooping into our data, but they will rather get a software from Australia, and then they'll say, no, that's the best technology ever. And you say, but I mean, some of those are more basic, because if you look at especially our QS calculator, that's a really, really complicated a calculator. And then, at the moment, we are even developing a module which basically deals with the issues around producing a booklet, a valuation booklet, because a lot of our customers, they love those booklets. So you'll find that, I mean, ours is not only just database, platform, but it has also got a report production, aspect to it. But it's still it's a massive challenge, Mashilo, unfortunately. But I strongly believe that no matter what, it might take time, but it has to happen. Technology has, it's upon us. I was reading one article yesterday by Bill Gates where he says, in the next 10 years, I mean, AI will be doing, maybe 80% of all that we can do as, as human beings. So we really need to embrace technology, but it's painful at the moment. But we soldier on, and we have been able to prove that indeed these technologies work. I mean, the software that I showcased, we have valued more than 80,000 parcels and complex properties, residential, shopping malls, farms. So it's truly tested. It's not like we are experimenting. No.
All right, Mr. Ola, your comments around how do, and I've got a second question that I'll do with Lloyd, and then we are going to start wrapping up. Your comments around how do we deal with the fear of technology, and at the same time, how do our regulators or the industry associations or industry bodies begin to accommodate the fact that the world is moving on? Mr. Ola?
Yeah, thank you. The truth is the fear is real, and the fear is economic, in the sense that people are afraid that people will no longer demand valuations. And let me also be honest with you, the fear is worldwide. If you've read articles from RICS about some of the ones that have been developed, what you find out is there's an emphasis on, while this will help to get our job done more easily, it will not do the work of a valuer. It will never be able to take the place of a valuer. And I still know how AI, will take force, and it will be able to take, the experience of a valuer. The experience that comes into making market judgments, as it were. Also, we must ask ourselves, yes, our regulators are worried. They're worried about what's the future of the profession when all of these technologies take over. But I would say it's an ongoing conversation. We're not doing any changes, difficult, we know, but we're not doing anything new. The RICS, as I mentioned earlier, are doing some things that we can copy. Dr. Maje, just showcased to us that it can be done. If you had shown us what was done in South Africa, we'd say, oh, it's South Africa. But then Botswana has been able to do it. So basically, we will gradually overcome that by, when valuers can see that they can get the job done more easily, they can make more money, because at the end of the day, it's a measure between they paid. These days, people want to pay negotiated fees. Nobody pays based on the scale of charges as we have it. So if tech can make it easy for me and colleagues to get data, if we can get all that we require using tech, I'm sure regulators will accept it. It will be slow. Trust me, it will be slow, because like the question that people would ask, are we dinosaurs? Truth is, it's not very easy to embrace it. But truth is, it's being used in other places and life is becoming easier. Valuations can be reported on time. Valuations are accurate. There's less reduction about the accuracy of valuations and all of that. So truth is, the tech wave is coming. It has started slowly, it's coming, and no regulator can resist it.
Yeah. No, thank you very much. And just following on what you have said, our last question comes from Lloyd Sungirirai. And Lloyd is asking exactly that, to say, how could we get the professional bodies in African countries to come together and share this data? Because it is not the inavailability of the data, but it's the lack of sharing of the data in order to build data sets like Costa, Zoopla in the UK. I mean, and for this one, before Mr. Olu, you come in, because I'm going to start with you and then we'll start wrapping up, is that, when we started our entity, so I'm the executive director of a company called BLK Asset Solutions. We started more than 10 years ago. And when we started our company, one of the things that we wanted to do is to try and build a real estate data bank on the continent. And for most people that knows me, is that I travel quite a lot across the continent on real estate and on property. And there's one comment, one of the big entities that operate on the continent made a comment. They operate in Morocco, in South Africa, in Mauritius, and all over the show. And I won't mention names because they don't have a right of reply right now. Was that we knew that they've got lots of real estate data. And at this point, I think that Maje made, and where they said they are willing to share with us their data, but we must be aware that by sharing that data with us, it's proprietary data. That means it's personal to them, it belongs to them. So as a result, we should not use for anything else beyond providing services to them. So if we get access to that data, it must be to an extent that we begin to deliver services to them. And I think that point that Maje, you have made, to say that part of the challenge is not the inavailability of data, is the freeness in which we can make the data publicly available so that it's accessible to everybody and accessible to all the practitioners in the field. And the second to that is, I suspect that it is the birth of the Africa Valuation Conference and the birth of this particular forum where we're saying the valuation education, to say we need to begin to build bridges across countries. I mean, the Africa Valuations Conference is organized by, I think, about 9 associations, or associations from 9 countries, at least at a minimum for now, East, West, and South, that are willing to collaborate. And that collaboration, in my opinion, will come. And that's my input with regard to this particular question. And there are many other things that I'll share just now in terms of how do we deal with that over time. And I accept what both of you are saying, that will come over time. Your closing comments, and you can comment on this particular question around getting all of the professional bodies together in order for them to be able to deal with this particular aspect. And Dada Ola, I'll start with you first. Let me check if he's not muted. All right. And Dada Maje, you can go ahead while Ola is still fixing himself.
Yeah, thank you, Mashilo. I think you know, it's very important that we have this type of you know, conversations on a regular, not once in a while, because like I said before, that you know, no matter what you know, we do, technology is upon us, and you find that countries like you know, let's say maybe India, for example, where you know the infrastructure can be challenging. You know, it's highly populated, like even like Nigeria. I mean, they've used technology to solve a lot of their issues, and you know, valuers, for some odd reasons, you know, we still lag behind in that that foray, and we really need to, you know, pull our socks and embrace technology and just see it for what it is, that it helps in solving a lot of problems, and it reduces, you know, mistakes, and then also it preserves data, you know, which becomes useful and valuable, you know, in the future. I mean, we are the only ones who still don't understand that data is valuable, but we are valuers, you know. So we are even failing to preserve something which can become a critical asset, you know, going forward. And that can only be solved by software. And if you look at our platform or our software, it has been developed in such a way that it complies also with RICS. I think one of the challenges within RICS, especially around AVMs, has been, you know, them recognizing them as, you know, the ultimate valuation, because at the end of the day, a valuer or a person has to be behind that opinion. So ours, we don't value. It's a platform that just, you know, do exactly what we've been doing, like using Excel and Word. So, but now in a more technological way and efficient way, and an easier way to analyze. And the final opinion will always remain that of the valuer. So we are not saying we are valuing, no. The opinion is of the value, but the technology helps the valuer to do it quicker. Thank you.
If and Dr. Maje, if you can also do your closing remarks, and in your closing remarks, there's a anyway, they say leave the best for last. In your closing remarks, if you can just opine on GIS and drone technologies. There's somebody who's asking about you know, what exists today in GIS and drone technologies that could be applied to valuation, and then do your closing remarks as we're wrapping up.
Okay. Yeah. We also have you know, a full-on GIS team, which deals a lot with our cadastral, because one of the challenges here is that we've got poor cadastral. I mean, like, we've got villages around the city here, where if you were to do a comparable, you find that plot 1 is not necessarily next to plot number 2. And then plot 1 could be a commercial property, but plot number 2 could be a residential property. So with the use of GIS, we are able to, you know, pick those anomalies. And now, once we embed AI into our GIS platforms, we will even be able to pick more, you know, anomalies, and be able to better our, you know, data output. I mean, we have been improving our you know, cadastral information, which we believe that right now it's even better than you know, what the government has, because we've been improving it and making it better. So and then also on the aspect of drones, yeah, I mean, they're not prevalently used here, but I think with the data that we've collected, especially centered around comparables, we will need to now invest more on drones to be able to go and run them around comparable properties, so that we are able to use AI to filter through and say, okay, when you say this comparable, this is what you mean, and what are the features? Are they similar to the property that you are comparing to?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And then what we'll do now is, Ola, if you can give your thoughts and then your closing remarks.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for, I've been having some network challenges here, despite having access to more than one ISP. So let me say that the way to go is technology. You raised the question I was to answer about, what we should be doing in Africa. I think we should be deliberate. We should continue with this kind of fora, and then we should be able to collect from each other, share and store and use. So basically, if there is a deliberate effort to share information, I think it will go a long way to stem it. And then we can use technology to clean it up and to stop. So basically, the AI, the use of AI, the use of blockchain allows for storage of data, in ledgers and all of that. If we're able to do that, it collects those data, share it. Oh, states, you want information on what is happening in Lagos. I practice in Lagos. Their colleagues that practice, we have Lagos, Nigeria is big. We have 36 states and the FCT, and then we have real estate markets across, divided into tiers. And then I just think we should be deliberate about it, and then we should embrace the available technologies. I was reading, about what is happening currently. And then I realized that, for fear of talking too much about what the RICS is doing, they have what they call technology partners. So if I have an idea, the partner, they sit with me to discuss the idea, we fine tune it. I think that's what we should be doing in Africa. Rather than being afraid of what will come up, let's sit with our people. I was listening to a podcast on YouTube yesterday to, 3 guys who used to be valuers. I use the word used to be because now they're in tech. And what they are doing is developing apps for valuation. Developing apps that will speed up valuation. They understand the problems. So if we understand the problems that we go through, then we should either be, looking at tech directly, or be partnering with tech guys to try to solve those problems in a way that we still keep, our data safe. Yes, if it's totally available to people, people may not consult valuers except where it is statutory. So we can keep it safe. It's available to valuers, maybe at a small fee if we need to do that to keep, because tech is not cheap. Then like I would say, there is nothing we want to do that is new. South Africa has its, its technologies. Botswana just showed us they have. I was reading about, some softwares in India that help you do your valuation, within a very short time. I think we should be looking at that now across Africa. Maybe you guys can push us in Nigeria to do better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a very fulfilling an hour and a couple of minutes. We have come to an end of this valuation education series. I want to thank my friend Olawale Adeyemi, and I hope you're coming. Afres is in your hometown this year, so I'm looking forward to meeting you there, to seeing you there.
I will be happy to host you. I'll be happy to host you.
Yeah. So, and thanks to Maje for his presentation. And both of you, I don't only value you as friends, but as also as colleagues, as people that I grow with, as people that we grow together, as people that we connect. And I hope that colleagues who have been with us on the line can also connect beyond this particular conversation, learn and network so that we can grow this industry. As we always say at ACRE, we're saying, you are the excellence. So just in closing, I just wanted the next presentation or the next valuation education in the series is in April. There's three of them. Two of those are part of the Africa Valuation Conference, which is taking place on the 1st up to the 3rd of April. So on the 3rd of April, there are 2 master classes that are part of that conference. There are those part of the valuation education series. Each of those are 3 hours each. One is on plant machinery and equipment, and the other one it's on valuation of energy and sustainability assets, as we are now in what we call the green economy, and we're also in what is called climate economy. And then we need, as valuers, we need to begin to know what are methods that are available for that and different valuation methods. Next, we would meet again for those that are interested with the valuation education series. The next one, it's on the 31st of March. There's a mini workshop. You can join online if you want, and then the details will be publicized via the group, and all of you have been added to the community in terms of the communication group. Don't forget to join on PropTech Buzz so that all of the correspondence and all of the notices and all of the webinars, master classes that are available, you are able to access. The valuation education series, webinar series, is free to attend. And then for those that are interested in their CPD hours, I've provided the contact in the comments so that you can contact those, and then you can follow the series. We do have master classes. They attract a particular fee. At the same time, as we said, we've got the Africa Valuation Conference. It is in its 3rd year. It's been happening for at least the past 2 years. We're in our 3rd year, and it's happening from the 1st to the 3rd of April. Thank you very much for taking your time to be able to be with Mr. Maje from Botswana and Olawale Adeyemi from Nigeria. We are going to AFRES after this, and that will be in September, and we shall meet at AFRES. There is another valuation conference that happens after AFRES, and at our next series, I'll share the details around that. It's called the V40, and I will share the details, and I will invite the local organizing committee of the V40 at the next series to be able to come and share the same way that we did with the PropTech Buzz about the V20, so that we can share the details. Enjoy yourself, whatever the rest of the afternoon that you've got. The next 1.5 hours is on us. We'll see you either on Monday the 31st, or I'll meet you at the conference in person. Enjoy yourself, and thank you very much. And for those that were not able to answer your questions, please follow on PropTech Buzz so that we can continue to engage, connect, learn, and grow. Enjoy yourself. Bye-bye.